today's webinar, the Secure by Design Playbook, Building Safer Mobile Apps from Day One. I'm Amit, your host from Meteonic, where my job as a security tool consultant is ironically to help you sleep a little easier in a world that seems intent on keeping security teams up at night. Thank you for making the time to join us. We know you have plenty of choices, but let's be honest, no one really wants to be the headline for the next big breach. We are here today to make sure your mobile apps are built with safety in mind right from design to delivery. At Meteonic, we work with companies from all sectors: finance, payments, gaming, logistics, FMCG, and more too. Leave no stones unturned in their journey to improve security posture. If you can name an industry, chances are we have secured their apps and likely saved them from a few gray hairs. Our specialty is guiding organizations through the ever evolving security landscapes where the rules change faster than you can deploy a hotfix. From automated code scans to compliance, mapping, and everything in between, Meteonic solutions help clients not just check the boxes, but genuinely raise the bar for security. And now, for something we are especially excited about, Meteonic is a proud to be authorized partner of AppNox, a Gartner recognized leader in mobile app security testing. If securing your mobile apps sometimes feels like playing chess against a grandmaster who cheats, AppNox help you outsmart those threats with a blend of human ingenuity and powerful automation. With AppNox integrated into our toolkit, we offer real-time threat intelligence, automated SAST, DAST, and mobile application security testing, MAST, all in one platform. Thousands of apps and hundreds of enterprises trust AppNox, so your security posture could stand a little straighter knowing you are in good company. Here is what you will walk away with: how to embed security testing early in the SDLC using automated scans that spot vulnerability before your code even dreams of reaching production. The magic mix of SAST and DAST in CI/CD pipelines, letting developers keep their velocity without multiplying anxiety. Centralized dashboards, compliance alignment, continuous testing, and security automation leave with a secure team development checklist. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Raghunandan J, Head of Product and R&D at AppNox. Raghu leads innovation at AppNox, shaping mobile application security and deep expertise in product development and strategy. He bridges challenging cybersecurity problems with user-focused, scalable technology, helping business stay ahead of evolving threats. If you think application security is just about code reviews and hoping for the best, Raghu's insight will change your mind and maybe your roadmap. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat box. We will tackle as many as before we close the session. Let's dive in and make mobile app security to brag about, not just survive. So, Raghu, the stage is all yours.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks a lot for that warm introduction. Let me quickly share my screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
All right. So let's get started. Just a second. Awesome. So welcome one and all for this webinar on understanding how to build security right from the design stage and preventing it from being an afterthought when it comes to mobile applications. I'm Raghu. I think Amit has done a quick introduction, so I'm not going to go through this. Yeah, so let's try and understand, where mobile app security stands as on today. In the recent years, I think the usage of mobile applications has increased manyfold. We use mobile applications for online shopping, for doing financial transactions, and for a bunch of other things. It's essentially our lives revolve around mobile applications, right? The first challenge for organization is that since engineering teams are often under pressure to release mobile app updates quickly, uh, in a short time frame, security kind of takes a backseat. The focus on that is not as much as it should ideally be. There might also be instances where the organizations might not have an in-house security team to be able to test the app for vulnerabilities. And even if there is such a team, they may be overwhelmed with the number of apps that they need to assess, and the bandwidth issue obviously kind of creeps into play. The other challenge that we've seen is organizations might not really understand why it is critical for them to secure mobile applications, and hence, as a result, might not be focusing on or giving that much attention to it. Whereas if they have had a web app, a bunch of network related stuff, they might focus on securing those, while mobile application security kind of tends to take a backseat. Uh, Even if mobile application security is in place, right? It could be outsourced to third party vendors for manual assessments, which could bring its own challenges, right? So for example, be it with the quality of the output from the third party vendor, or the time taken by the third party vendor to provide reports, so on and so forth. Now, what we suggest instead is to embed security right from the first day of the team starting to build a particular feature. Secure by design basically means that security shouldn't be a last minute checklist item. Instead, security should be woven into every phase of the SDLC, right from the design phase all the way to the release phase. Instead of treating security as an afterthought or as something that AppSec teams would take care of later, each team, including the product management team, the development team, QA, DevOps, everybody needs to take ownership and have their own specific responsibilities throughout the SDLC. Uh, every major change, ideally, every major feature that you're trying to introduce into your mobile application should begin with some sort of a design review with what data flows are involved, what permissions this particular feature would touch, what is the worst case scenario in case somebody tries to misuse that feature, so on and so forth. During development, automated SAST is something that's extremely recommended from us. Uh, During this process, you could do secret scanning, you could do dependency checks, and some sort of basic configuration checks that run continuously. So issues kind of pop up right alongside the build error, so that it becomes easier for the development teams to realize that there is an issue that needs to be fixed, and it'll be easier for them to fix it because it's surfaced right at the beginning of the development stage. Now, once builds are generated, you could look at doing something like an automated assessments of those applications, validating the runtime behavior, validating the real runtime behavior of the application, and ensuring that the final end product, which in this case is the mobile app binary in itself, is secure. And security does not end there. We believe security is a constant process, and even after the app is released to the Google Play Store or Apple App Store, there has to be a mechanism to ensure that the app is constantly monitored, monitoring the behavior of the applications, monitoring the type of releases of those applications, so that security does not degrade over time. Right. So right from the design stage to development to deployment to post deployment. So that's what we recommend to all our users. Now, so when we talk about embedding security in the early phases, right? So secure by designs essentially starts even before a single line of code is written. This could begin as early as when the product manager or the product owner brings up a story for grooming. Ideally, it's at that stage the security aspect of implementing that feature needs to be thought out. You could look at adding some sort of security acceptance criteria as well, so that all the teams are aligned and they understand what needs to happen apart from the functional implementation for that feature. So developers know upfront that what is the security control that a particular feature is expected to meet. We could also do some sort of a quick threat modeling. This any for any new features that's going to get built. So this will ensure that any vulnerability downstream would potentially be get reduced. Next is when we are developing any new feature, we could look at documenting data flows and trust boundaries. This will help teams avoid, risky storage decisions on where the data needs to be stored, or by accidentally giving excessive permissions to the application, or even prevents accidental exposure of data. Right? So these are some of the simple habits. They feel lightweight, but what we've seen is it's incredibly effective. This will help organizations and teams kind of shift the security left without slowing down the development. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to be doing anything that slows down the pace of the development teams. Now, when we talk about automated vulnerability detections and how it could potentially help, the development teams identify and fix vulnerabilities, as early as possible. Uh, this can basically be achieved through bringing in mobile application security into DevSecOps. The most practical starting point for this is the build step, because for us, the binary is the single source of truth, right? Because it's the end application is what is going to reach your respective end users. Uh, Unlike web applications, mobile apps don't expose full server-side logic in the pure code form. So assessing the end output, or which is the binary or the application that's going to be used, it provides more clearer picture in terms of what are the permissions, are there vulnerabilities with regards to the network behavior, are there challenges with regards to encryption, and are there any runtime risks, so on and so forth, right? So in a DevSecOps workflow, every time an APK or an IP gets generated, be it whether from a release branch or a feature branch, automated security tests should get triggered immediately. So, for example, SAST can run on every single PR. DAST and API scans for those applications can run on compiled builds, or which is nothing but the end APK, AB, or IPA files that you're trying to release, right? There can also be security gates embedded within your CI/CD pipeline based on your internal policies. For example, you can say that after SAST is done, if there are any critical issues that have been found during SAST, end the pipeline then and there. And a similar kind of security gate can be embedded for dash checks as well as API scan checks, right? So what this basically does is this ensures that the developers are getting the feedback then and there, rather than them having to wait for a third party team or a third party vendor to look at the application and then come back with the list of vulnerabilities saying that, hey, look, I found 10 different vulnerabilities that kind of need to be addressed within your application. So the earlier you find a vulnerability, the easier is it for the teams to fix those vulnerabilities, and the cheaper it is for the organization to have those addressed then and there. Next is with regards to aligning the security workflow with compliance or regulatory standards. So if you're not doing anything with regards to mobile app security at this point in time, our recommendation is to start with the bare minimum and follow some of the industry standards, such as defined by OWASP. I think most of us here would be aware of what OWASP is and what they do. Specifically in the context of mobile, they have a bunch of guidelines that are meant to help developers build secure software, secure applications. So you could look at OWASP MASVS guidelines, which we could look at OWASP MSTG, OWASP Mobile Top 10, which are the top 10 controls defined by OWASP in terms of how a mobile app should behave. You also have OWASP API, because when we talk about mobile, APIs also come into play. So this would be the bare minimum thing that teams could start with. Although we would we would recommend our customers and organizations to go way beyond this, but in case you don't have a setup in place, this would be the best place to start in terms of what are the things that my mobile app should stand tall against, right? So OWASP Mobile Top 10, the latest one is from Mobile Top 10 2024. That will give you a good starting point, post which gradually you can build on top of it in terms of what else needs to be get covered. These are some of the industry standards or guidelines. Beyond this, you also have compliances, right? Or the regulatories defined by various bodies, either governmental or non-governmental. Depending on what industry or sector your app fits in, you could look at then doing HIPAA compliance. HIPAA is healthcare predominantly for US region, right? Then you have finance and payments, which is nothing but PCI-DSS. This is a global compliance standard that most organizations who who have a who are handling some sort of financial transactions within their applications have to adhere to. Same with regards to general data protection as well. GDPR is again a renowned compliance standards. I think even in India, we've launched DPDP recently, which is which is inspired by the global GDPR standards. So even in case of GDPR, it talks about, how do you handle customers' data? How securely are you storing it? Do you have consent to store that information? What kind of controls are you giving to your end user to ensure that, they can say that, no, I don't want this organization to hold my data anymore, so on and so forth, right? So these are some of the regulatory compliances that you can also add support to. But to start with, you can start off with OWASP Mobile Top 10 and then drastically, expand your coverage. Next is how do we bring in, compliance in the SDLC? So again, as we were talking about SDLC earlier as well, whatever requirements we've just talked about, if you can map those into your SDLC and automate checks. When I say automate checks through CI/CD pipeline, or if there's a mechanism, if there's any other mechanism using which you could potentially, automate the whole vulnerability assessment itself, this will help you avoid last minute scrambles, compliance specific scrambles before the application has to get released. The goal here is very simple, right? Build once, test continuously, and kind of stay compliant by design. Compliance should not be an exception, but rather it should get embedded throughout your software development lifecycle itself. Now, at this point, we've reached a stage where the application has kind of gotten released to the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. Now, many organizations tend to believe that this is where our job ends in terms of security. But what we also recommend is, one of the most important parts of mobile apps that we've seen that kind of gets overlooked is what happens to the app after it has been released, meaning the moment it hits the stores. Ideally, we recommend that every single version that gets released to the store needs to be monitored even if there's a minor update to that app, because this will then help you ensure that whenever that release happens, you can go back and verify whether that release actually went through a security assessment process internally, or did somebody push that app directly to the stores without getting any sort of security assessments done, right? Because in case such events are happening, that's a big potential headache for organizations, because it could lead to brand reputation loss or even something worse, right? Another major challenge, what could happen after the app has been released to the store, is with regards to some third party trying to mimic or clone your application, trying to trick your users by making them believe that this fake or cloned version of the application is authentic, right? So that's one thing that you also need to kind of monitor and look out for. Uh, the goal here is to maintain constant feedback loop between what's live on the stores and between your internal security teams, so nothing slips through and every published version of your application kind of remains aligned with your security baselines that you have defined internally within your respective organizations. The other thing that we've also observed is one of the biggest gaps, specifically in the context of mobile AppSec, is fragmented visibility. Every tool stores their findings or results separately. What could also help here is a centralized dashboard that kind of showcases what are the risk trends across all apps, platforms, and the versions in one single place. This will help you immediately know which app have critical issues, which ones don't, which ones have not been tested at all. Have there been applications which have been tested in 6 months or a year? So that kind of visibility is something that you get. A centralized visibility is something that you get through a unified dashboard. Uh, it can also look at highlighting, unscanned builds that slipped through the security process and got released directly to the store. Now, what this kind of visibility does is it helps specifically the engineering leaders prioritize resources. They can focus on the riskiest apps that exist within your organization's mobile app ecosystem. Uh, and not the ones which which just have 10 different vulnerabilities, and you don't have to look at it just because of the count of 10. Rather focus on what matters the most and have those addressed first. So this is where a unified visibility in terms of what the organization owns, what is the security posture of those applications, what are the critical risks that exist in each of those releases or pre-releases rather of those applications, will help engineering teams prioritize what needs to be fixed first, have those addressed, and then have those deployed to the respective stores. So this is why we recommend that have some sort of a centralized visibility across all the mobile app assets that are owned by your organizations. Moving on, I think we'll quickly kind of summarize what we've talked about. This basically is some sort of a secure development checklist that we propose. This checklist is not some is rather something that your teams can adopt quickly. It starts with basic design controls that we've mentioned right in the previous slides. Uh, Things like adding acceptance criteria, security acceptance criteria, things like data flow documentations, right? Then once it moves into development, you're running SAST on every single PR where you're trying to, do some sort of secret scanning, dependency checks, and a bunch of other SAST checks that can be done. Once that is done, move on to doing DAST and API scans on every build, where you could look at configuration issues or a bunch of other runtime issues or runtime behavior of the application and try to identify vulnerabilities at that stage. Embed security gates within your CI/CD pipeline, because this gives you greater control to ensure that anything which is insecure does not slip through and gets released or gets deployed to the stores there. Have centralized visibility for everybody within the organization, be it developers, security teams, product management teams, so that all of you can work together and decide what needs to be addressed first, and then plan the respective release of those applications. Uh, Once all of this is done, I think, as we said, right from design to development to deployment to post release, right? Even after the app has gotten released, uh, you know, uh, there has to be some sort of constant monitoring that happens of the app that has been released on the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. I think even adopting 70 to 80% of this checklist that you're seeing here to begin with will significantly elevate your security posture. Now, moving on, I'll just give you a quick overview of what AppNox is. I know Amit did talk about it in the initial stage, and I'll give you a quick walkthrough of our product and the offerings that we have in terms of mobile application security. All right. So this is a quick overview of our organization. I think we are a mobile application security platform that multiple organizations kind of use to secure, build, and release their mobile applications in a secure manner. We are a 60 plus member team serving 500 plus clients. We are listed in Gartner as well, which Amit called out right at the beginning. So this is a brief overview of our company. These are some of the key accounts or the key customers that we serve right now. We have customers all over the globe. This is just a brief snippet of the kind of customers that we are currently working with. I'll now jump into a quick product demo. Is my product screen visible? Can somebody please confirm?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. So with regards to AppNox, we have two main offerings at this point, two main products. One app which caters to what happens to your app in the SDLC, wherein you identify vulnerabilities, have those addressed. Then we have another offering called as StoreKnox, which helps you, get that visibility that we were talking about earlier of your applications once it has been released onto the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. So I'll quickly start off with AppNox before moving on to StoreKnox. Right. Now, with regards to AppNox, we work on top of the application binary. We don't need your source code. It is an extremely easy to use platform. The way you initiate the scan is there are three mechanisms or three ways using which you can upload your application. One is you just come here, click on the upload app button, select your application binary, and then, upload the application. That's one mechanism. The second is you can also upload applications through the CI/CD. We have integrations available with all the well-known CI/CD vendors, as well as we have a CLI which should ideally integrate into any of the CI/CD vendors out there. The third mechanism is you can copy paste the link directly from the store, either Google Play Store or Apple App Store, and initiate the upload. We don't usually recommend this a lot because we want our users to be able to identify and fix vulnerabilities before the app is released to the stores. But in some exceptional circumstances, if there's a slippage and it goes into the store without the security assessment, this is a quick way to assess such applications here. Now, once the application is uploaded, our system automatically initiates the static scan for that application. So I had run a scan a couple of hours ago today, so that it'll be easier for the demo. But the moment you upload either your APK, AAB, or IPA, we accept binaries. The moment that is done, our system automatically initiates the static scan or SAST for those applications, right? It typically takes around 3 to 5 minutes at max for the static scan itself to get done. So these are some of the kind of vulnerabilities that we detect within those applications itself. So these are some of the sample vulnerabilities that you can see here. Once the static scan is done, you can then initiate the dynamic scan. Now, dynamic scan will help you evaluate your app during its runtime. We provide real devices, so whenever you try to run a DAST, your app might either get installed either on a real Android for an iOS phone, depending on what platform it is, and you can interact with that application like you would do on your normal phone, right? So, for example, this is a dummy app that we have. So these are some of the phones that are available. I'll just be 16. Just say capture all the APIs and then say start. So what's happening now is this application is actually getting installed in one of the devices that we have here. And once that application launches, it installs, launches. Now I can kind of interact with various functionalities of this application. Since this is a dummy application of ours, it has very limited functionality here. Like as a user, you would just interact with various pieces of functionality that exists within your application. And as and when you're doing this, behind the scenes, we are capturing all the necessary details we need to identify potential security loopholes that might exist in your application. So once you've traversed through all possible screens within your application, you just need to say stop. And once that is done, our analysis engine automatically tries to identify what kind of vulnerabilities, runtime vulnerabilities exist within your application, right? Now there's a way to automate this as well. Whatever manually which I did, there's a mechanism to automate that as well. You just need to give some basic inputs. Behind the scenes, we have a fuzzing engine running, which kind of picks up those inputs and tries to click through various HTML elements within your application and tries to navigate as many screens as it can during DAST, right? Now, along with this, you'll also see, along with the vulnerabilities, you'll also see scan coverage, which basically talks about what are the various screens that have been accessed during the DAST run for this particular application. What are the various APIs that got captured during DAST? Because as in when you're accessing functionality within your app, I'm sure there'll be some API calls triggered. So in case you want to download those list of APIs, you can generate a HAR or JSON format here to maintain an inventory. So that's also something that's available as a part of our DAST function, a DAST module. Once DAST is done and once you've captured the APIs, you just have to identify the list of APIs that got captured within your application. This is some sample app. So you're seeing some dummy APIs here, and you just have to say initiate API scan. Once you initiate, you just have to initiate the API scan, and once it is done, you'll automatically get notified and the results here would be available. This is from the previous run of the API scan that was run on this particular file. So these are the vulnerabilities that you get to see, right? Now, you get to see an overall vulnerabilities as well. Right now, I showed you, scan type specific vulnerabilities, but here is where you see the overall vulnerabilities that has been found for this specific application. Whenever we are flagging a vulnerability, what we basically do is we give you a high level description of what that vulnerability is. We are following CVSS v3 standards here to kind of grade the severity of a vulnerability, various metrics associated with that CVSS standards, what the vulnerability is, and what is the compliant solution, meaning how does your development team go about fixing the vulnerability that has been found, and what is the non-compliant code example, basically indicating what is it that your development team did incorrectly in the first place, which resulted in AppNox finding this issue, right? So that's the non-compliant section. Then we have support for various regulatories and industry standards. I think we talked about OWASP standards in our deck. So you see a bunch of compliances for OWASP. So it's basically saying this particular network security misconfiguration vulnerability is violating the M5 requirement of OWASP Mobile Top 10 2024, right? This vulnerability is violating PCI 4.1 requirement of PCI-DSS version 4.0 guidelines, right? So that's how you interpret the results of what we are trying to showcase here with regards to regulatories and industry standards. Moving on, we kind of show the business implication of what can happen if this vulnerabilities goes unaddressed, right? So this is the core VA module that we have, where all of these scans are automated: SAST, DAST, and API scan. Along with this, we also have a mechanism using which our users can request for a penetration testing or a manual scan to get done. So all that you'll have to do is you'll have to come here and then fill some basic information about your app and submit. The moment you submit this request, we have an in-house team of security researchers who kind of pick it up, have the app assessed, and come back to you saying that these are the things that we found. Along with this is how you go about resolving each of those issues. So we also host a remediation call of sorts, remediation call rather, for our customers to kind of help address the issue itself. So this is the core VAPT offering that we have. VA is the automated one, PT is the manual assessment, the capability that we have. So this is the core VAPT product. Now, on top of this, we have a few other additional add-ons meant to kind of enrich your overall security posture by giving you visibility from apart from the core whatever vulnerabilities that you found. There are two other add-ons which kind of gives you visibility, from one from supply chain perspective, the other from a privacy perspective. Talking about supply chain perspective, so we have SBOM in place. SBOM basically again runs on top of the binary. For none of the scans, we need access to the source code. So when you uploaded the app, the initial time itself, when the static scan was getting executed, parallelly our system executes the SBOM as well. So this also you should be able to get the results in about 3 to 5 minutes at max, right? Now, one of the other advantages of SBOM is we kind of run this on top of the binary, give you the dependency tree of all the components, third-party components, libraries, and frameworks that have been used within your application. Then you can also see whether there are any vulnerabilities associated with that particular component itself. So if there are any vulnerabilities, you'll get to see the vulnerability data here. For example, we are using GHSA as the repo right now to identify vulnerabilities. So in any case, if any of your components used in your mobile app has vulnerability, so it'll automatically get flagged here. We also flag outdated components. Let's say that in this test data, unfortunately don't have to show. I don't have that information to showcase. But let's say that your application is using version 1.1 of some component, but in the market it's 3.3 that is available. So you'll also be able to see such outdated components as a part of our SBOM offering. Along with this, you'll also get to see any, now that most organizations have started to embed or started to leverage AI within their applications. In case there's any usage of ML models within your application, you get visibility of the usage of such ML models as well. We are currently using Hugging Face report to kind of detect what kind of models exist and whatnot. So that's the kind of visibility that you get with our SBOM offering. Like our VAPT, where you can extract the result and kind of analyze the information that's been found. Even here, oops, that you'll be able to get the report out. Cyclone DX is one format that we are currently supporting here in SBOM. Is a compliance, basically, the way organizations consume SBOM. So Cyclone DX is something that you can definitely download and give it to your vendors if necessary for them to consume the SBOM related information. So SBOM kind of gives you the other side of the puzzle, which talks about what are those building blocks that went into creating that application itself. Now, on top of, along with that, we also have Privacy Shield. What Privacy Shield basically focuses on is three or four main aspects. One, it looks at what are the various trackers that have been embedded within your application. When I say trackers, development teams can embed trackers to kind of track usage patterns of their end users or a bunch of other such behaviors of their end users. So the idea behind this is to give visibility to security teams, saying that, hey, look, these are the trackers that have been used. Are there any excessive are there are there multiple trackers trying to do the same thing? If yes, can we minimize that so that the attack surface kind of gets reduced? That's the intent behind showcasing the information here. Similarly, for dangerous permissions as well, we kind of give a list of all the dangerous permissions that was found in your application. This again is meant to drive conversation, not to be treated as a vulnerability per se, but it is meant to drive internal conversations to try and understand whether this permission was really, really necessary in the context of your app and the organization. If not, you have an option to have that removed. Next is server locations. This is what in this case what we are trying to do is we are trying to assess what are the locations that your app is trying to connect to, and kind of flag those high risk countries potentially, along with any other country that your app is trying to talk to. So for example, in this case there are two domains, I believe, in the United States. You can click on this, it will tell you that this was the API, and this is where it kind of, this was the domain rather, and this is the where it was found, right? So you'll get insights on where your app is trying to connect to as well. And we rely on OFAC sanctioned countries as a list to flag risky countries, countries that are perceived to be risky. This includes China, North Korea, and a bunch of other countries that the US Homeland Department, I believe, has defined in the OFAC list, right? Along with this, you also have PII detection capability. In case of PII, what we are doing is we are trying to see what are there any hard-coded PIIs embedded within the application itself, along with any PIIs that could be, uh, excuse me, PIIs embedded within the network call. So those are the other elements that we kind of try and capture as a part of our PII detection module. So this kind of covers the overall, VAPT platform, where we had the core VAPT platform, which was SAST DAST API scan, along with the manual scan, on top of which you have SBOM, which gives you supply chain security perspective, and Privacy Shield, which gives you the privacy angle of your application from that perspective. Uh, Apart from this, we also have DevSecOps, which we've talked about. These are some of the key, CI/CD tools that we can integrate with. This is just a sample set. We can, we are happy to embed more integrations. We also have API available, readily available, so that you can extract, all the scan data all the scan results, results of all the scans that you perform on a platform. If you want to embed it into any of your internal tools, that's also something that's available out of the box. So this is the core AppNox platform that we have. Moving on, StoreNox. StoreNox basically caters to what happens to an app after it has gotten released to the store. Now, What we also realized is when we were talking to larger organizations, we found that not everybody within that organization or not all the relevant stakeholders within that organization knew how many apps that existed in their organization's ecosystem. Now, if you're from a security team, if you don't have the visibility of whether you own 50 apps or 100 apps, it will be extremely difficult for you to get those apps secured, right? So the first point is to give the teams the visibility and bring everybody on the same page, saying that as an org we have 100 applications and these are the 100 mobile applications that we need to focus on securing. So that's something, that capability is something that's embedded in StoreKnox, wherein you can automatically discover applications from the stores. Either, so for example, I can just type in Facebook, say discover. Now it will try and fetch the results from both Google Play Store and Apple App Store and say, these are the various applications matching that keyword. If you are the developer, you'll know the developer name, right? You can simply say add to inventory. Once you do this, it will go and sit in your centralized inventory. The other way to discover applications, we also have a mechanism of auto discovery. Once you have a few apps in your inventory, we automatically try and look at the metadata associated with those apps, like developer name, support email and whatnot, and try and fetch more results for you, saying that you thought only these two applications belong to you, but we now see 5 other applications by the same developer, which is not there in your inventory, right? So that's kind of auto discovery capability also is built into our platform. So once you discover applications, have them added to your inventory, what we do is we do something called as a drift detection. The first thing, when we say drift detection, we basically try and look out for every single version of your app that gets deployed to the store, be it Google Play Store or Apple App Store. The moment it is deployed, we then try and identify whether that version of your app which just got released on the store, was it assessed on our platform before the release or not, right? So for example, in this case, this application was released to the store, but it was never assessed before the release. And this app is currently available in these, I think this is a iOS app. Okay. So in app stores belonging to these many geographies. So you'll also get a geographical perspective on what are the countries in which your app is live, along with whether the app was actually assessed before its release or not, right? You'll also get to see the history, meaning historically speaking, for this application, there have been at least 4 instances in the past where such an incident has happened, right? Where an app version of the app got released to the store without it being assessed by the security teams at all. Now, this is meant to drive internal conversation. So if security teams kind of get this visibility, then they can go and talk to development teams to understand why there's a deviation in terms of having those app assist. It's meant to drive process improvements within the organizations, as well as to ensure that at the end of the day, the security team, which is responsible for securing all the applications, their lives are made easier with this visibility. So that's the intent behind this drift detection capability. And the reason why we call it as drift detection is organizations would have the expectation that every app would kind of get assessed before it is released. In reality, that's not happening. So there's a mismatch coming in between expectation and reality, and hence there's a drift that is in place, right? So this is the drift detection capability that we have. Along with this, we are looking at launching a couple more enhancements to this. One is to detect brand abuse and fake applications. So we look at third-party stores, including Google Play Store, Apple App Store, and see if there are any, apps which are trying to mimic your application's name, behavior, trying to trick your end users to believing that this version of the app is authentic, and flag such instances to you. We also have plans to embed malware detection as a part of this platform as well. So this is what StoreKnox does. So AppKnox focuses on what happens to your app during SDLC by helping you identify vulnerabilities, helping you address those vulnerabilities then and there, giving you the visibility from a supply chain perspective and the privacy perspective, whereas StoreKnox predominantly focuses on what happens to your app after it has been released to Google Play Store or Apple App Store, giving you complete visibility and control over all the applications that are owned by you as an organization to begin with, right? With this, I think I'll take a pause. If there are any questions, Amit, I'd be happy to answer.
Uh, Thank you very much, Raghu sir, for your wonderful insights. That was really helpful. But coming back to the session, we have some questions from our attendees. First question being, how does AppNox help reduce false positives and noise so that small teams can actually act on the results?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, with regards to AppNox, what we do is we constantly monitor for any reports of potential false positives, and we have a feedback loop to enhance the test cases or the vulnerabilities that we look for. So, if we find that a particular test case is giving is being reported to have a slightly higher amount of false positives, we quickly address the logic of that test case to kind of fix the root cause to ensure that that does not happen. We have a quick feedback loop in that sense. That's number one. Second, we also give controls to our end users themselves to kind of ignore what they perceive as a false positive, right? Ignore vulnerabilities that they think as a false positive. So there's that feature called as ignore vulnerability within our platform, using which you can say, I want to mute this particular vulnerability for all my scans of this particular application so that it doesn't, show up on the report as well. So that kind of flexibility is already in place. I hope I answered that question.
Great. So I hope, Madhura, that answers your question. Now, another question that we have is it possible to export SBOM report in SPDX and
Yes.
Cyclone DX format in AppNox?
Yeah. Currently, we have support for Cyclone DX. SPDX is something that's on the roadmap and will be introduced soon.
Okay. So next question we have is, how do we position AppNox against specific competitors like Sneak, Sonona, Cube, Veracode, and others? If AppNox is agentic AI ready, if yes, then how does that functions?
Yes. So with regards to the list of competitors that you've put down here, all of these are possibly generic AppSec vendors, whereas we specialize in mobile applications. So the vulnerabilities that we look for are specific to the Android and iOS applications, right? And the other differentiating factor is all of these are source code vendors where you'll have to give access to source code, which not many companies would be open to doing. Whereas in our case, we run all the assessments on top of your end binary or the application that your end users would be utilizing. This will also reduce false positives because in source code, there could be an increased number of source code analysis. There could be an increased number of vulnerabilities triggered due to, let's say, dead code or the code that was not used, which will not be the case in case of binary based analysis. The reason being you're testing the application on the end product or the compiled app, which is the binary. So those are some of the quick, differentiators between what these other companies do and what we do. We can definitely send out a detailed document, Amit, post this if that helps, Arun.
Definitely will do that.
Yeah.
So that was really anyone else who is having any questions or anyone who can who have questions. If not, then definitely I'll ask some questions. Okay. So I have one question. Like for organizations new to mobile security, what is the best way to build a business case for investment to leadership?
Uh, I would say that showcase present the list of vulnerabilities and its business impact, right? Rather than saying that there are three vulnerabilities in your application, if we could
Mhm.
take that a step ahead and say these three vulnerabilities could lead to customer data getting compromised, which could lead to the brand reputation being impacted of that organization. I think that will bring in a lot more seriousness and understanding of why mobile application security is important. As I mentioned earlier as well, there we've seen cases where organizations tend to focus more on web app security and network security and a bunch of other AppSec areas, even though they have significant number of applications because it kind of takes the least amount of priority. They feel that if the same app is working in the website and it's secure, why should we invest additional amount of resources to secure the mobile version of the same application? So yeah.
Understood. So we have another question. Any benefits in using IAST in SDLC? This is from Mr. Atul Daf.
Yes, so you could potentially embed IAST as well. This depends on the maturity of the organization, right? So IAST essentially is like a next iterative version of potentially DAST. That's something that you could look at embedding within your application development lifecycle itself, so that you have the feedback loop coming in and identifying what vulnerabilities have been found and helping you and your team kind of addressing those then and there.
Okay, great. The question we have is how AppNox integrates with IAC validation pipelines like pre-commit hooks and policy as code hooks.
Uh, this we'll need to take a look at it. So currently, our system automatically tries to, the moment the commit is pushed, right, or the pipeline is triggered, we automatically trigger a SAST assessment. So we'll need to take a look at how we can bring in this angle in the context of AppNox. We'll definitely be open to hearing more from you on this, Kiran, and see what can be done on our end.
Okay, great. So another question that the question that was there. Yeah, welcome, Mr. Kiran. Okay. So if it's agentic AI ready wasn't answered, means the question that was there, how do we position AppNox and Veracode? If AppNox is agentic AI ready, if yes, then how
Yeah.
does that function?
I need a little more clarity on what this means. If the question is on whether AppNox is trying to leverage AI in any of its offerings, the answer is yes. We do have AI elements within the current platform that I showcased. For example, something like the fake app detection module that I talked about within StoreNox, which is upcoming, is leveraging an AI engine. Similarly, the PII detection module that I showcased within Privacy Shield, that again is leveraging an AI model behind the scenes, as we are using Microsoft's model there, Presidio. So there are AI elements within the application itself. Even in terms of test cases, the way the test case logic works at times is also driven by AI. So something like our hard-coded secrets detection test case is ML driven. So there's a model that's constantly running, observing the kind of information that's getting flagged. So this is what I meant when I said we have a constant feedback loop to resolve the potential false positives quickly. So yes, there are AI elements that are being embedded within the applications already.
Okay,
Thanks, Arun.
great. So, okay, I think we have covered all the answers. And we are also almost out of time. So anyone else, if you have any question, we can have one question. Okay, we have one question now. Can AppNox help in testing APIs with a condition that no Postman scripts are available?
Yes. So we will be able to run the API scans. So essentially what we do is when you're running the DAST, right, or the dynamic scan capability that I showcased, as in when you're doing that behind the scenes, we're also capturing all the API calls that get triggered as a part of your interaction. Now we run authenticated API scans. All we need is the endpoint which gets captured, post which we have a bunch of test cases that get executed against those APIs that were captured from your mobile applications. So we don't have any dependency on Postman scripts for that.
Okay, that's really great. Thank you, Raghu, for your insightful informations and the things that you shared regarding mobile application security, that everything that can be covered in a single platform. Need more details on this if we can connect. Definitely, sir, we will be connecting to you. And I have just shared the contact details where you can connect to us for any one-on-one session or for demonstration of the tool or any questions that you have. And meanwhile, you can also share the questions on in the chat box for that we can answer after this webinar also. So I hope this was okay. One last question I think we can answer that we have some time. Licensing and trial period will be shared for AppNox.
Uh, yeah, so in terms of trial period, yes, we do have POCs that is available. Typically, I think I don't believe we have anybody from sales on the call. But yeah, I think typically it runs from 1 to 2 weeks, where you can upload your application and walk through try out all the functionalities that I just showcased. That's the POC period POC mechanism that we have in place. With regards to licensing, our licensing is based on the number of namespaces that you want to scan, right? Number of unique namespaces is what the AppNox platform is priced on. I think again, Amit and team can share more details after the call for sure.
Definitely, definitely. We'll be sharing that. So with this, I would like to thank you on behalf of AppNox team as well as from on behalf of Meteonic. And I have already shared a contact detail where you can connect to us for one-on-one session or for a demonstration of the tool. Definitely, we will love to answer as many all the questions in that one-on-one session. And till then, stay connected with Meteonic, and we will keep on bringing you such sessions. Really thankful, Raghu, for your kind words and the this wonderful session. Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you very
Amit.
much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good
Yeah,
day.
thank you very much, and have a great day and have a great weekend ahead. Yeah, thank you.